I'm still stuck in the old video you using to share the video with me before the stream.
Sorry, what?
Mind changing that screen share setting?
Sorry, what do you say?
Remember how you had, instead of sharing your screen, you were sharing
Oh, the window.
the window? Yeah.
Has that gone away?
No, it's still there, but that's, well, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
That's the goal.
Well, the problem is I won't get you won't get audio,
True.
right? Yeah.
All right, then that's the move, and that's the move.
Yeah.
All right, then we begin.
This is it. Um, Let me quickly check and see. Um, oh, good. Can you check if we started streaming? Question mark. Let's see if it says it's live on my personal channel. Oh yeah, we are live, baby. Let's see how it
Live.
looks. Oh yeah. Oh, good. Yep.
I gotta check this out.
Yeah, that's real. That is cool. Alrighty. Well, welcome to Politics and Calipers. I'm Panda, and
I'm nameless. That's what we're trying to address right now.
yeah. Now, being that we like technology, I suggest AI powered is the answer.
Yeah, AI stuff is one of the fields I'm most interested in. We can kind of get into more what kind of engineers we are in a bit, but
Engineer. I guess some background. I'm a mechanical engineer, um, mad engineer. I think if there's a mad scientist.
why bedroom film crew? How'd
Wait,
that get in there? Hold on.
where are you looking?
Bedroom film crew right in the middle.
I mean, technically not wrong, but
New England disc golf.
that's weird. Zoom. Hey, Zoom. 3D sound will
Talks
record
with Matt. I just gotta change my name to Matt.
matched talk tech with that. Yeah, no name.
These are all super passable engineering names, but I feel like that's because engineering like channel names are often so dry.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Also, one of those was what turns you on.
Electricity. That is what gets the LEDs going.
What pushes your buttons.
Um, yeah, I don't know, Chief.
Well, I'll be nameless for this episode. Every
Nameless.
episode we can try to come up with a new one.
I like it. um, I kind of like the idea that's a running gag. That like at the beginning of the episode you don't have a name. Um, yeah.
We feebly try for a little bit to come up with one and just move on.
Yeah. Okay. What? How's your day going, by the way? Having a fun one?
I just bricked the motherboard of my 3D printer, so it's all going well.
That does not sound particularly great.
Yeah. So I needed to swap motherboards. I got a new. I have an Ender 3.
Mm,
I wanted to get the kind of the probe that takes the offset at a few different points, kind of creates a kind of 3D mesh of what the printer bed must be. It even
mm,
counts for like warping. But in order to do that, I needed a new motherboard. And when I was flashing the new firmware to it, I moved the bed like I used to
yeah.
when I was trying to like with the old one. I just kind of slapped down the magnetic bed on there and pull it towards me. And spinning up the motor, I think, just bricked some part of it because every time I tried to turn it on since, it just emits this like terrible whining noise.
Shit.
So
Yeah. I mean, hey.
it's incredible how fragile like motherboards can be. Just like electronics in general.
Oh God, yeah. Like, it just takes one spark, you know, one errant like slip of like some tweezers and stuff, and you can jump. You can cross some cables.
One little short
Yeah.
problem I had once was the way we screwed down our like motherboard for some robot we were making.
Mm-hmm.
it touched a screw in the back that made contact between two pins and caused a short.
Ouch. That is not fun.
This is pretty meta. We're looking at our channel on live stream.
Yeah. How can I branding? I'm trying to see if. Oh, here we go. Yeah. As we're still setting everything up. Okay. That control seed. Let's see.
This is the script for the two brothers.
Ingenious. In a live stream. And then politic talks.
And then I don't know. I am not creative. I won't lie to you.
Well, no name. That does.
That isn't that is in keeping with my character. Yes, the faceless man.
And then they started projects they'll never finish.
Hey, it's not finished until you give up, or you haven't not finished it until you give up.
That's from giant cat monsters, and then a giant tornado came. Then things were knocked into 12th gear. Actually, that ending works. I don't know how to finish it from there, but
Yeah, it seems pretty good to me.
Yeah. Okay, let's delete that end, and that'll be our first one. Let's see. Drag this back off. Yeah, at least your Ender 3 fix won't be breaking any banks here,
Yeah, it was like a $50 board, but it's not ideal. It was a very like 3 seconds of action. I now have to wait until Saturday for the new one to come, which isn't terrible, but I just want to see my probe work.
You should. You don't have a SLA MLSA printer, do you?
Not one of my own now.
You should get one, man. I swear they are. It's just too easy, you know.
I think I probably owe my first paycheck. We did one for my last project, and it was we used to make almost all of our parts for it. So I got super familiar with using SLA, and I gotta say, the precision you can get with those is insane. You can get some really nice kind of like interlocking between pieces going with those.
Yeah. Oh, Elku has a quit. Oh, dude, you should do it now. This is the one I have, it's a really good printer. Any Cubic was also having a crazy sale on.
Yeah, Anycubic was the one that we had. I might get one of those.
You should, because I think I actually like their bed locking mechanism better. You see on the Elgu, you have a set screw right there that holds a ball.
Again, you have me locked to one window, so I can't see this.
Yeah, you can. It's on the screen.
I'm looking at channel customization, basic info.
Bloody hell, you're right.
Yeah.
Change windows. Good love. There you go, Chief. Yeah, you should go. They've cut their prices dramatically. I won't get this one because
Wow.
One single rail.
No, that's the one that we had. That one works great.
I know it works great, but I honestly recommend getting a dual linear rail.
Why?
Dual linear rails just prevent so much from a mechanical standpoint. Remember when I was looking in my CNC project that I'll be kicking up again? Like that was
I don't know. We ran into zero issues with it.
No, you're not gonna run into a problem with it. It's not like that big of a deal, you know.
It's just not as like ideal as it could be. I think it's fine.
You're future proofing yourself because they are expensive, you know. The little buggers, they're worth it, you know.
Unless I'm reading reviews that they're breaking on people, I think I have a reasonable amount of faith in them.
That's fair. The other reason I would say you should go with Anycubic is their bed attachment method is simpler than Elgu. With Elgu, you see that like that's a screw right there. Essentially, this is a ball and socket joint, and you hold it down with two. You hold it down with these two set screws,
That
and so
almost doesn't seem better. Why are you adding an extra degree of freedom to the middle of that like print bed?
well because this is on a spring, so to when you level it, what you do is you put the leveling piece of paper under there. You then put it compresses down, and you can then tighten down the bolts. And I have like a methodology to do it, but what I really need to get is a torque wrench to do it, so that I always know what I'm getting to. Actually, do.
How much are those?
Let's see, torque. I'm gonna go with screwdriver actually. If you're gonna get this printer, you should get one of these. Is what I would say.
Get that to go along with it.
Yeah.
You just want me to bring it over so you can use it when you want to do yours.
Um,
That's my theory.
okay, they're a little bit expensive, but they're not bad. A torque wrench would probably be cheaper. Does it have open access? Oh, it does. Maybe I can just go share with a torque wrench then. I don't even have to worry too much. Yes. Oh, these aren't. This doesn't look torque limiting. Oh,
I feel like that's not what they're doing. Add torque limiting to your search.
No, they are. You can actually see it on the.
Are they?
There it is.
Oh, I see how it works. That's cool.
Yeah, and hey, for 30.
There's gotta be an interesting internal design to that.
Oh god, yeah. Well, it has to do with this ratchet mechanism, right? All of a sudden, it's gonna slip on you the second you reach that, whatever you set it to. So, I'm gonna add this to my cart. I might not buy it, but no thanks. That might be a thing. I think we should start a basic engineering toolkit doc. That like any engineer starting up or whatever, like what should you?
Yeah. I mean, soldering iron, like a computer.
Yeah.
Basic screwdriver and hex. Like Allen key set.
I'll get some formatting on this later, but sorry, what were the other ones you suggested?
Soldering iron, 3D printer, small screwdriver set, Allen key set,
That's a good one to have. Screwdriver.
heat shrink, and heat gun.
Slash Allen key. Heat shrink. Heat gun. I would say taps. I find myself tapping a lot of my prints nowadays because it's accessible to me.
Just do heat set inserts unless you're doing SLA stuff, but I don't think you should be tapping SLA stuff. I think you should be putting in a hex nut from the back and like screwing into that.
That's fair.
Or slotting a hex nut in.
That's a fair point. But also, like, if you're gonna work with metal at any point to do like
Yeah.
plates,
I mean, unless you have like a CNC machine or you're like getting like stuff laser cut, you're not gonna be tapping stuff. You're gonna be working with like nuts.
I also tap acrylic a good amount.
That's a bit less janky, but still, I feel like you want to use a nut with acrylic.
No, you can if you're okay with it sitting on top, but if you need it to like the plate itself to be the end point of it, you end up having to tap. Acrylic does hold a tap pretty well. Now it's weird that neither of us has mentioned this one, but I'm gonna put it out there and see what you think.
You know, obviously. That seems like a given, honestly.
Yes. I would also say this one, Nation Square. Combination squares are really great.
What are those?
Give me a second, let's see if I can pull it out. combination square. Are these guys. Now, the reason they're super helpful is when you're working with like 80/20 and stuff, you can make sure that your pieces are 90 as you screw it down.
Let's see.
And one of the other cool things, if you're schooling on like acrylic, metal, or anything else, you could take out your caliper, and using this measurement here, you can then set the combination square to that length, and then it's an easier drag tool that you know is 90, because that's a bigger face, on your part, so it's easier to hold steady, which is one of the cool little tricks that you can do with your caliper and combination square method. So
Should make a video demoing this stuff sometime.
yeah, that is a good thing to note, actually. Man, I swore I saw my combination square like last night when I was looking down. Yeah, that's a pretty good start though. Is there anything else I would really argue for?
I mean, like a CAD-ready computer.
Yeah, you say that, CAD.
I mean, like desktop preferred. If you can like go through the process of selecting your own components for a desktop, I think that's pretty valuable too.
Yeah, as I'm like killing my own computer here, trying not to weigh my laptop down too much. Let's see, is there anything else that like be super keen? Get dismissed. Get out of here, bud. Yeah. So that's an interesting fix on your printer. That should be tough.
Yep.
Let's see.
When in doubt, just don't touch it.
Yeah, I feel like that's really the answer with electronics,
Save yourself so much time in the end.
Yeah. Let me get rid of some of these tabs. Let's see. What would be a good thing to jump to? What fun political news has passed by your info source? What has NPR been saying?
Just been hearing about standard stuff like with Roe. The fact that Joe Biden's been touring around in Europe and hasn't really been able to get anything he's been talking about to be heard over like everyone talking about Roe.
Weird.
Yeah.
Do you want to see what the vice president said about the overturning of Roe v. Wade?
It's either gonna be like comically like non-specific and weak, or it's gonna like promise stuff that they'll never deliver on.
Wow, you have the startings of precog.
Elementor presents the
I swear to
Impressions.
God, I don't know how you just saw into the future. That first option is a pretty good answer.
So much for having me here. You were on a plane when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade as the highest-ranking woman ever
was on
elected
a
in U.S.
plane.
history. What was going through your mind at that moment?
Just text me.
Well, so I was on Air Force Two, heading to Aurora, Illinois, to talk about maternal health. We were with Lauren Underwood, with the chair of Judiciary, Dick Durbin, Senate Judiciary. We were headed there to unveil a plan based on the work we've been doing to ensure that women receive the kind of support they need during and post-pregnancy. And, we thought that the decision would come down sometime soon, but not at that moment. And I was shocked. And, it's one thing when you know something's going to happen. It's another thing when it actually happens. And I just actually turned to
Wow, so
CNN.
deep.
And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
So deep.
Oh, no. Yeah. What do you admit it is?
Because they actually did it. And here's what they did. The court actually took a constitutional right that has been recognized for half a century and took it from the women of America. That's shocking when you think about it, in terms of what that means, in terms of democratic principles, in terms of the ideals upon which we were founded.
Everyone
liberty,
was
freedom.
like saw this coming. People have seen this like the writing on the wall since 2016. Like this is no new news.
Yeah.
You know, I thought about it as, a parent. We have 2 children who are in their 20s, a son and a daughter. I thought about it as a godparent of teenagers. I thought of it as an aunt of preschool children.
And a woman yourself.
And a woman myself. And the daughter of a woman. And a granddaughter of a woman. And, my husband and I are actually talking about it. We have a 23-year-old, and my mother-in-law's in her 80s. Our daughter will not know the rights for the amount of time that my mother-in-law knew these rights, which is the right that should be well settled, that a woman should have to make decisions about her own body. And when we think about it, everyone
a lot
has
of
something at
personal
risk on this.
anecdotes and not
First
a lot
of all,
of
if you are a parent of sons,
action.
do think about what this means for the life of your son and what that will mean in terms of the choices he will have. Do think about it in the context of the fact that they wrote this decision, including concurring opinions, that suggest that other rights, such as the freedom to make decisions about when you were going to start a family, the freedom and the right to make decisions about contraception, IUDs, what this is going to mean in terms of in vitro fertilization.
Well, let me ask you about that, because Justice Thomas, this is what you're referring to, did write a concurring opinion saying the court should reconsider other cases of precedent that protect same-sex.
Just for anybody who ends up stumbling across the stream, that he suggested Griswold, Oberfell, and Lawrence, which Oberfell is gay marriage, Lawrence is sodomy, and Griswold is contraceptive.
Correct.
Marriage, contraception, intimacy, and more. Do you think that the Supreme Court is on a path to reverse those as well?
I definitely.
Sorry.
Isn't that going to be like on the Texas Republican platform, which you're going to show us later?
Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry, but I love the way that they got around saying sodomy by saying intimacy.
Yep.
That caught me off guard.
I don't believe it's not over. I do. I think he just said the quiet part out loud. And I think that is why we all must really understand the significance.
Wait, sorry. I hate to pause it. So, what quiet part? They've been fucking shouting this shit.
That's their like election pitch. That's what they tell their voters.
Significance of what just happened. This is profound. And the way that this decision has come down has been so driven, I think, by the politics of the issue versus what should be the values that we place on freedom.
This
and
being
liberty
driven
in our
by
country.
politics?
Right? The right
No.
to privacy. Let's think of this in the context of the laws that are being passed in states. Dana, in 13 states, by my count, they will not allow a woman to have access to and authority to decide whether she wanted to continue with a pregnancy that is a result of an act of violence is absolutely unthinkable.
So, because you are now the Vice President of the United States, part of an administration that is pledging to fight back to find ways to protect women's rights to
Like,
abortion,
what you
I want to
gonna
ask you
do?
some of the things that are kind of out
That's a good question. They don't have a lot.
there that some of your
Let's
former
see.
female senators, Senate colleagues are asking the administration to do. Will the administration actively challenge state laws that make it a crime for someone to help a woman travel to another state for an abortion?
So the president, rightly, last week when the decision came down, indicated that quite unambiguously that we will do everything within our power as an administration through the executive branch to ensure that women have access to the medication they need, which has been, by the way, FDA approved, and that they will have freedom of travel and that travel should be unrestricted.
And you're going to do that?
What does that mean? What we have in our he's not signing that many executive orders. Like, he hasn't flexed that herd. What?
Does she refer to any specific action, or is this just kind of like...
That was the most general sentence.
We will do everything within our power as an administration through the executive branch to ensure that women have access to the medication they need, which has been, by the way, FDA approved, and that they will have freedom of travel and that travel
We will try so hard to kind of do something.
should be
Yeah,
unrestricted.
does she
You're
have
gonna do
any
that
more
through the courts if
specifics?
need-
You're going to do it through the courts, or just like a bunch of lawsuits?
I don't know. But first off, we're 6 minutes in, and we haven't started yelling about who the hell the problem is here. You know? Like, how do we get 6 minutes into this and not turn this into an attack piece, you know? Like,
On who? The courts? Michelin McConnell?
wait, but yeah, just the Republican establishment. Like, you gotta be angry at something. You know? You
Well, I
gotta-
mean, they're going to turn this into fundraising probably in like the next last 2 minutes of this. Like,
That's a good point.
their goals right now, because like they understand like this is how like political scientists who do a bunch of like polls have found you need to message to Democratic voters is kindness based. Like, instead of having any concrete policy, she like had like a few personal anecdotes and then spun right into like, we're gonna try really hard.
Interesting.
Like that's where they're trying to go with this.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought
Like,
about the polling on how to get donations from that side, the psychology behind it. Interesting.
I am sure that our Department of Justice is going to do that based on every statement that the Attorney General has made.
Can the administration expand abortion access or abortion services on federal land, meaning provide the access on federal land that might be in and around states that ban abortion?
I think that what is most important right now is that we ensure that the restrictions that the states are trying to put up that would prohibit a woman from exercising what we still maintain is her right, that we do everything we can to empower women to not only seek but to receive the care where it is available.
Is federal land one of those options?
I mean, it's not right now what we are discussing, but I will say that when I think about what is happening in terms of the states, we have to also recognize, Dana, that we are 130 odd days away from an election, which is going to include Senate races, right? Part of the issue here is that the court has acted, now Congress needs to act. But we, if you count the votes, don't appear to have the votes in the Senate. Well, there's an election happening in 130 odd days. I'm taking, for example, thinking of a Senate race in Georgia or North Carolina. There's a Senate race coming up just in a couple weeks in Colorado. And we need to change the balance and have pro-choice legislators who have the power to make decisions about whether this constitutional right will be in law, right? We say codified, put it in law so that there will be no ambiguity about it.
And I want to ask you about that in 1 second. Just a couple more questions, because what I'm hearing, and you probably are too, is
Say hello to Webflow.
How weak was that first 7 minutes? You know? Uh-oh. Beef?
that's right. I was muted. I muted myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I expected. That's absolutely what I expected. That's completely par for the course for Democratic leadership right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's I'm not exactly like making a hot take when I say that Democratic leadership is pretty moderate and weak.
Yeah. I mean,
Just as a blanket statement.
this is just such an inadequate answer, you know? Like, she just mentioned races without deciding to mention names. Like, go support a candidate. Get behind somebody. You know, I think she's referring to Ralph Warnock, who's running against Herschel Walker, who doesn't believe in evolution, but that won't stop him from being a Republican candidate. But, yeah, like, what is this?
this Democratic administration do right now with any executive power that the president has?
Yeah.
Can the administration actually increase access to medication abortion?
I think we're pretty clear that to the extent that we can, we will. There's no question about that, because again, it is FDA approved, and if it is
extent to which they
prescribed,
can.
that a woman should be able to have access to it unfettered.
And what about the idea of financial resources? Some form of voucher for travel, childcare services, other forms of support for people, for women seeking abortions in states where it's not legal, but they just don't have the means to go elsewhere.
I think you're asking a very important point, making a very important point, which is what are the details are going to go into ensuring that women have the ability
It's just
to
such
actually
a thoughtful question.
travel.
The classic question dodge response.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No. You bring up a great point, and this idea of interstate travel is going to be important, because Texas having deputized civilians, right? You can make a decent chunk of change doing this, and so if they then later say, I don't know if they've quite said it, but if they say interstate, out-of-state abortions are also illegal, can also be prosecuted. There's going to be groups that come looking for you. Having anonymity and the finances and the resources to do this is a really important thing. And dodge in 3, 2, 1.
Travel without impairment, and we know that on this issue, women who have access to resources will probably be far less impacted by this decision than women who don't have resources. So this is something that we are looking at, because we know, for example, in terms of how this is going to actually impact real people, over half of women who receive abortions in America are moms. That means that if they're going to have to travel, they've got to find daycare and pay for it. It means that they will, if they are working, which most are, they're going to have time from work. And if they don't have paid leave, they're going to have to figure out how to afford it. It means that they may have to put up money for a train or a bus or a plane, much less a hotel. And so we want to make sure that there does not result extreme disparities or any disparities based on who can receive care based on how much money they've got.
And you heard her talk about the election coming up in 2022. And Pamela, I asked.
Dude, that is very much the state of liberal politics. That is the verbal equivalent of painting BLM on the streets while doing nothing else.
Yeah.
It's like we're really trying to be conscious of all the power disparities going on and the intersections of resources and but no action. Just
Yeah. Oh, it's
I mean I don't know. That is there more to that interview than we saw?
There was,
Does it get to any specifics?
No.
I mean, I've heard people kind of like surmise the points made by like the Biden administration on this, and it's kind of come out to be like, yeah, no real hard
Yeah.
specifics that they're going to go for.
Yep. No. I don't know what the rest of this interview is, but yeah, they talk about how she never believed these two people, like the two justices, um, and the like. But yeah, like doesn't ever call out anyone by name. Doesn't like go after like, this is a Republican problem. This is supported by America. We get behind people. Like nothing. Um, but I think the scarier part, even above this one, is the next couple. You know, the next couple of cases that were stacked on row that needed to be protected and was not because Obama did make it a point. So yeah, what was any insight on cool insights on the NPR takes?
Um, Now the NPR takes were pretty much just like high level summaries. I mean, it was basically just like Biden hasn't really been able to do too much like foreign policy work in Europe,
Yeah.
or like that's kind of all been like overshadowed by Roe. But he has like, I don't know. The big thing I took away from like a lot of stuff I've been hearing is that he's actually been doing some interesting work in Europe right now, and like potentially has bribed Turkey to let Finland into the EU, which I think would be very interesting.
Yeah, I did hear that the way they got around that, because Turkey was held up about some terrorist group that was in Finland, I believe. Um, but that's quite interesting that did was that got done. Um, speaking of it, I am curious because I have not been checking in on this as fervently as I should be. I am curious how the Ukraine is holding on. If at
We
all.
get like a live map.
Yeah. Oh
I look
yeah.
up a live map. I like
Live.
the live maps, but like the updated like front lines.
Yeah. Live UA. Let's see what we got. Showing. Apparently, they might be losing a province, like a prefecture soonish. Um, yeah. The major point, I think, when this, like, obviously, I don't really know how much more they're gonna hold, but I think Putin might call this the win and sell this as a win eventually, when maybe things go sideways. Establishing this land bridge to Crimea, it was his big hope.
I hope he seems to have done that. I mean,
Yes.
whether or not he can actually get those in like negotiations is a different story, though. He clearly holds it right now.
Yeah. The oh, I guess that's a bit too zoomed out. The big part, and I don't think this element is often talked about as well as it ought to be, but how much of this was just a grab for oil? After the Maidan Revolution, there were huge amounts of oil found off the coast of Crimea in the east and in the west. And obviously, Russia being the only petrol state in the EU territory, adjacent neighboring, makes it their bread and butter. And if the getting more and more friendly Ukraine finds oil and becomes a big distributor, Russia's got nothing, So I feel like that
Another
was
dimension of this is the pipelines. There's actually a or at least like the distribution networks. One of the big ways they were getting Russian oil out was through the strait um, between Crimea and I guess the other side of that little peninsula.
yeah.
Once you pull this up, it'll be a bit more apparent.
Open image in new tab. Zoom and enhance. That's not too zoomed. But you're right.
Oh, I guess shipping lanes actually, but
But this runs right through Ukraine. This territory.
yeah.
This is the hurt. This is the big, this is the big vein of oil, that runs right through there. And if I continue to zoom in, even if it gets bad, here's a huge vein of the natural gas. Here's all the smaller natural gas. So yeah, Ukraine, leaving would
You have to be a petro state when you're at war with the country that contains your pipelines.
Yes.
But what I was referring to is I think that it's not shown in this map. I think this is all pipelines, but like I think there's shipping lanes that go through like the eastern part of Crimea and go through that strait right there.
Ha, sucker.
I think you're gonna need to put map in there.
I definitely will. Oh, does this one go over?
Still pipelines. Do lanes, not lines. Googling's all about keywords.
Very true. Oh, maybe this is what we're looking for. Nope. No, no, that's the Nord VP1 pipeline.
Yeah, maybe I'm remembering all this wrong. It might have just been the oil that was on it, but and pipelines elsewhere. But
I mean, they were gonna put the Nord Stream 2 down here, too, but that has ceased to be. Obviously, destroy. Haha. What a roll. You know, it will be important, you know, to help rebuild Ukraine, but you know, you really hope that it's not just through like some IMF loan, you know, and become a kind of a vassal in many ways of a country. Let's see.
wait, from whose side of rebuilding? From Russia's or from the EU's side?
Like the EU American side, because I think Ukraine is
I mean,
a hold. I don't think Putin. I think did get the shock and awe. I don't think they're going to be able to work their way up, like all
well,
the way.
once Ukraine got like significant involvement from NATO and the EU and like the US and like the old first world, then I think it was kind of like out the window for Putin to actually like totally topple Ukraine at any point. It kind of became a question of will Ukraine cede territory to Russia?
That's the big part. You know, I could see him. I keep accidentally scrolling out. I could see him really trying to connect to the Transnistria area and calling that the next big win too. Especially because the town down here, Odessa, as you can see, there's all these streams that go really deep into the
So
city.
is that old Russian colony or something?
Oh, this Transnistria area? No, this is the next country to get put on the chopping block. So much like the Donbass, the Transnistria area here is a Russian-funded territory. In many ways, is similar to the Donbass. Moldova is not in NATO, and
So do they have like old ethnic ties to Russia the way the section in the Donbass does? Or is it just like
I'm not sure if there's the same ethnic ties. Obviously, Moldova.
do they have any Russian leanings they want to be a part of Russia, or is it just like they've just like picked them? Like kind of like Ethiopia picked by the Italians.
I don't think you choose to be part of Russia. Russia chose to be part of you.
I mean, as much as that is true, like the Donbass do have like higher polling like rates for like joining Russia.
That is a fair point. But you know, this is old USSR territory, so there is Russian ties. I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. That there were like some diasporas, some little colonies of more Russian, ethnically Russian people there that they funded. But you know, also money. They just funded it. So yeah, that's I guess how Ukraine's going. Well,
Like what's gonna be very like telling for Ukraine is just like not telling, but what will decide Ukraine will be kind of how much resources and how quickly
mhm.
the Western world wants to give Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean we
They're very much a resource war right now.
yeah we just gave them a ninth shipment of weapons like a week ago. They actually were more technologically prepared than I think people knew.
Hmm?
Knew about. While they weren't obviously strong in numbers, they definitely had a good number of tech that was high quality. That like helped. So
Yeah, the pictures I've seen of like 2016 Ukrainian troops versus 2022 Ukrainian troops is pretty funny.
yeah, Ukrainian. So there's a funny thing that I learned. So some of my background, family-wise, is Ukrainian. Um, my dad's mom's side, and so apparently all of Manitoba, Canada, was settled by Ukrainians once they kicked the natives off. Um, and so there's like really big groups of Ukrainians in Canada, and so they have enough people now to make their own battalion. So there's a patch and stuff that they have, and so there's a large amount of Canadians fighting over in Ukraine now, which I didn't really know about.
There's a ton of foreign legions in Ukraine right now. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard I listened to this one interview someone did with this like guy from Britain who's going to fight. It's very interesting that like so many people feel this is like a like kind of like authoritarianism versus like freedom fight, like kind of scale.
I mean, it is in many ways. Like Putin won't stop here. Like Moldova would be next on the chopping block. Having that big of a border with Poland would be pretty problematic. I do see, like, he took parts of Georgia back in 2008. I don't think Georgia would be particularly safe. If Kazakhstan continues to have riots that aren't quelled, he could take Kazakhstan back and bring it into a Chechnya-like autonomous region, he could continue to move outwards.
I mean, he clearly like he has like it's pretty well established his goal is to rebuild the old Russian Empire. So yes, he will be doing all those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, his whole reason was blood and soil, as a calling code. Speaking of the Transnistria region, by the way, that tweet.
Got some cool stuff there. You want to show me? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
They try to recruit men out of the Transnistria area.
Interesting.
So yeah, they're definitely trying from there.
You think they're running out of troops? Not normally the problem the Russians have.
Yeah, I do think they are, in many ways, because it was pretty tough sell at first, actually, because obviously he did some trickery.
I mean, all the stories of people just kind of getting dumped off. It's like, you're in Ukraine now, have fun.
Yeah, and they had trouble establishing supply lines, and so that caused a lot of problems as well. There was actually an attack, Russian facility helicopter attack. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there was an oil depot that got blown up in Russia. Now,
I remember hearing about that one.
yeah, they said it was Ukraine, but I heard at one point, and this is a bit speculation territory, I heard that Ukraine actually never took credit for it. And also that it was,
Fair enough. You don't really want to be like taking credit for the attacks that you're doing on like foreign soil if like maintaining like a good public perception is pretty key to maintaining those, as we've talked about, crucial international aid supply lines.
yes.
Not supply lines, but will to continue being supplied.
Yeah, but when I first looked into this, it's actually pretty deep in the Russian territory. I would be surprised if it was a Russian helicopter.
Really? Oh, rogue helicopter?
There were stories and reports of some people throwing out arms and like giving up a little bit, and some of that obviously was like Western media hype.
So you think it's, I mean, yeah, like they're going to amplify those reports.
Yeah,
but
I would not be surprised if there's one or two cases of like a couple people actually having gone rogue and not enjoyed where they were at. Because like, it is war. It is pretty brutal shit.
yeah, but that would more so be like someone on the front, not someone deep in the heart of Russia doing it, you know?
Let's see if I could figure out where that was. It was like, it wasn't like next to like Moscow or anything, but it was like still like around the border territory. Belgrade.
Oh, hey, we've gotten 2 likes, and only one of them is me.
Oh wow, I haven't even liked it yet. Let me go.
We should get to a little bit of catting at some point.
Yeah, if you want to get up your
I'm not in the catting stage of the hydroponics tower. We still got to talk like design like plans and do some cost analysis with Adam.
That's a fair point. I was gonna start a research doc on my CNC machine. If you want to start a research doc on that. Oh, it's out of the herd cave area. Interesting. Yeah. Let's see. What should I get going here? So I'm gonna start a CNC doc. CNC design Bible. So this is actually something that I started on a project, one of my contract projects, was the Bible idea. And the idea of the Bible is that like every element of it goes in there, and that if you ever have a question, it's just a document, the home of all documentation. But it's like
I do the exact same thing with my projects as well.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull up how I do it. I do it on OneNote because I carry around my old Surface Pro, so I can do like pen and paper stuff. But
That makes sense.
I also sync it to my desktop. Find something interesting to show.
Let me know if you have something you want to share, and I can
Yeah,
make you go.
I'm about to. I'm about to send it over or start sharing. Yeah, here we are.
Let's see what I have to do to get you in. I think I might have to stop sharing my screen to you.
Can you see me all right?
No.
I see. What are you trying to?
Share your screen to me, the one you want to share.
I'm pretty sure I am right now.
Let me double check the doc. There we go. Yep, now you're going.
Oh, sweet.
Let me drag you over here and make you bigger.
So when I'm CADing, I'll do a lot of kind of pasting schematics in for wiring too.
Yeah.
Also do a lot of links. Let me find a good one that's... Yeah, this one I did a lot of links for. This was my biomechanics project.
Let me make a big screen.
Yeah, it's kind of putting in little links to whatever I was referencing. Kind of helps you keep track of what I was doing. It's definitely the way to do kind of keeping track of large projects.
Yeah.
I had an old one for my drone that was massive.
I do like the fact that you can go in like directions and have more of like a brain map,
Yeah, that's why I like OneNote a bit better. It's kind of more of like a you spread out a big sheet of paper on a desk than like a Google Doc,
Yeah.
which is more like a single like more restricted like Word doc kind of feel to it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Especially when it comes to drawing, because I don't have any drawing abilities in that same sense. Nice.
But yeah,
That's cool.
you should share your screen with me again.
Yeah. There you go. The Bible.
Yep, the Bible. So, do you call that a Bible?
I do.
The master plan doc. I like that.
I like using that because it's an easy shorthand. Just be like, oh, go to the Bible.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'll put no name just in case you add to it and do design checks. I won't share it on screen. I think you should have access to this, right?
I believe so. If it's in the folder with everything else.
Let me make sure that it's there. Move to... Oh yeah, it's in my drive. Oh, I actually put everything in my drive.
You fool!
Utter fools. Move. There we go. Without having to show anything.
No name. So I guess you're openly Ryan Shaw now.
Fuck, I did that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Oh, that's never going back. Hi, I'm Ryan Shaw.
Never put that genie back in the bottle.
Nope.
Internet, baby.
I'm okay with that. You know, it was always gonna happen if I wanted to do this for realsies. 01 dash. Oh, it's 01 already. Woo-wee.
Is it? Oh, man.
I know. Dude, July 4th snuck up on me. Not gonna lie.
Someone was shooting off fireworks on my window last night. Or, well, tonight. Today.
Yes.
I was on my roof like a few hours ago watching fireworks.
Yeah, somebody was doing that here. Where's that? Oh, there it is. Is it page setup? Pageless. Okay. There we go. Oh, interesting. I like this. Going pageless actually makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah, it's a bit like OneNote in that way. Some ways, not many ways.
Yeah. Interesting. I wanted to go to pageless though. I don't want actually no pages. I wanted the just not set as the. Wait, what am I looking for? Oh, view. That's it. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Heading to table of contents.
So yeah, why don't you tell a bit about the background for this project?
Yeah, so it started from a class, and you know, having a good CNC machine is always kind of a good idea. It's a pretty powerful tool that you can always use for so many things, and it helps you, I think, understand more about like, you know, how to make parts. I think understanding how to machine is really important. But you know, it's a good, I think, engineering challenge in general, and you know, I bought.
Parts aren't too complex either.
No, they're definitely not. It does take a good consideration of like what your goals are, which is how my first project went sideways. I think. You know, I think I shot too big. As I look at the breadboard that stares at me disappointingly.
Mhm.
But you know, it's definitely something that having in your back pocket, I think, just opens up a world of like understanding how to build things and what confines you're in. Because machining is a tough thing. It has a lot of forces, obviously, in it. A lot of design choices you have to make, and yeah.
How far did you get on your last push on this project?
I actually got pretty far. I had like a full CAD design, but then it was just too big in many ways. Millijoules, no, kilojoules. You know, it got unwieldy, and so I think I gotta remember that it's gotta be apartment sized. I don't get the nice.
We don't have a warehouse yet.
Exactly. I think that's kind of the big part that I need to remember.
Size down.
Yeah. One thing that I think is also good, you know, we had a teacher that we share that, what's the word I'm looking for, talked about this element a lot, you know, making sure that you define your nomenclature and your abbreviations and your assumptions, and I think that's a really important part as well to any project is starting to have a lingo. You know, I think when you do things, you start to have a lingo about it, and having that written down is actually important for when, you know, I send you some work or whatever, and you know,
Keeping things consistent is really important.
yeah,
Go so far as to say it is key.
very much so. Let's see. Takeaways from attempt 1. What do you think the CNC should be able to do?
I mean, in this final iteration, or for the first little push you're gonna make?
Final iteration.
I mean, it would be nice for it to have like the ability to do like kind of tracing, do some laser cutting, do some actual like CNC significant like probably not need to or be able to get it further than like 3 axis. Like it's not gonna be able to like rotate around. I don't think. Just kind of having it like move up and down, left, right, forward, back is probably like gonna be able to do.
Yeah.
But even with that, you can do like put an end mill on and kind of do like top down stuff facing. You just swap it around enough times, then you can kind of do most things you need to do. If you can easily swap in between like having like an end mill attachment and having like something like a laser cutter or a water jet, that'd probably be one of the most important things you could do.
I
Just making
completely
that
agree
simple.
with you. Yeah. Obviously, when you put the spindle back on, you have to do a lot of measurements. But that is a really good point. Have a 3x machine, interchangeable tool, laser cutter, engraver, spindle. We drop this into normal text. That is not normal text. One also thing is, you know, obviously I'm looking at, you know, 30,000 feet. How do I want to be when I get, you know, to the end of here? But it's also important to de-risk your builds and make the baby steps. You know, obviously building
Exactly.
a CNC machine from scratch is like it's a good hill to climb. You know, it's not small.
That's why I asked, like, what are you asking for, like your long-term goal or for your like immediate short-term goal?
Yeah, and that's definitely a question that all engineers have to ask themselves when they're doing this.
So going back to that, what is your thing going to be?
Goal. That is a good point here. Let's see.
Like laser cutter or like etching type thing would probably be the best thing. It's kind of like go
Yeah.
through like plywood and make little plywood pieces off of a mill. I think that'd be a good simple one. You wouldn't have to do any raising and lowering for that.
Checkpoint. I'll pull it because I don't know what order this is gonna be in yet, but we want engraver slash spindle. Slash laser cutter attached operational. You know, before even that, I just need to get a two-axis gantry going. You know.
We had the parts of that working. We just didn't actually make a good 80-20 gantry.
Yeah. Two-axis gantry. What else do we got? What would be some other good ones? Then getting 3-axis.
You do some like pyrography. If you like little like hot ends, you could like do like put like a soldering iron on it. You could like do wood burning.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That stuff's pretty cool. 3-axis gantry. Functional. Some of this will get fleshed out in a bit. You know, like I don't quite know what my steps are. Like, I'm looking at this optical breadboard, which, you know, this might be a bit extreme for the engineering checklist, but quite frankly, an optical breadboard is a pretty useful device. It's flat for optic purposes, which means it's flat.
That's what they use for doing like the lasers research, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my old lab used to be an old lasers lab, so we had a bunch of those kicking around.
Yeah.
You probably commented on them.
I think I did. But the bigger thing about them is that you have this threaded array of holes, which makes life so simple when you want to make attachments. And you know, it's super versatile. It's super easy in that sense. I don't say it's a necessity, obviously. But like, look at this. Like, unsupported in the middle, you're getting 0.004 millimeters of movement in displacement. That's insane. Like, that's, you know, a really good foundation to work on.
So I'd imagine that would also be pretty good for like vibration purposes, like warping during
Exactly.
milling.
You know, vibrations will be a key element of this.
Yeah.
Is there any other pieces? So I'm pulling from an old dock onto here. Let's see if I have any. No, I think I can close this out. Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. Let me change. You want to? You had a video game going. What were you playing before stream?
Oh, I'm still chipping away at RimWorld right now. It's probably one of my favorite video games. It's kind of comes from a very like systems level. So you kind of have. I can share my screen. So you kind of have little pawns, and each real pawns has their own stats. And so you kind of want to have like a balanced team, and then you can kind of build little buildings, and each room will have its own like stats. Like this is a throne room, this is a rec room, got like a pool table, and it's super detailed because each person has like recreation or beauty needs. You got to put sculptures in places that'll make people happier. This is my little machining thing. You got like a research tree. And you kind of have to design your area so that like this is my like cold storage room. It kind of has a bunch of doors around here is an airlock between that and the kitchen and like a little air sealed hallway, so that's not constantly losing air. Because you can see the temperature over on the right. It's hovering like right around 0 degrees Celsius. So things aren't quite frozen, but they are refrigerated. Oh, because I never turned these guys on. Yeah. So. But if you set it right, which is why I enjoy this game kind of in the background, you just kind of hit play. And if you assign like the right priority to what you want people doing, that'll run in the background.
That is pretty sick.
Yeah. It's a pretty neat game.
Oh, no name. I'll leave you up on the screen with that. Which one did I buy?
Which of your rails did you buy?
No, optical breadboard. I think I got the 300 by 600. I had to guess. Yeah, that's 300 by 600. Yeah, I wonder if that's just a waste. I think it'll be useful in other situations as I'm building up this machine, but I don't.
Is this your linear rail or is this your what is this?
Oh, this is the breadboard.
Oh, the breadboard.
Oh
Oh yeah, do you still have that breadboard?
I do. I'm looking at it.
Looking at it right now.
It's actually going to be pretty good, I think, for the help to build it, but I'm not sure if it's going to end up in the final one. I think one of the checkpoints I have to get to is I need to figure out what my cutting what my operational area is.
I mean, having a really heavy base won't be the worst thing for vibrations. Like, that'll keep it stable. You might just
Yeah.
want to have that.
Well, I agree with you that my foundation is most likely going to be an optical breadboard of some kind, but is it going to be that exact one? Is my bigger question.
Just take a saw to it. Just cut it down. You'll be fine.
On this channel, we do not recommend optical breadboard home. That is no.
They're very expensive and valuable.
They are pretty much.
What?
I might have to like sell off some of the stuff I originally bought, just to like make room for that. But
Yeah. You don't need the old parts. Place them.
okay, what were my problems from attempt one?
You mind sharing your screen again?
Yep. That I can do.
Where's your screen? There we are.
Let's see, take one of probably went too big. I was attempting like sub 300. How do I want to say this? X, Y. I forgot how tall I wanted to go, but it was pretty tall. I was thinking
Is your operating space?
yeah. What was I looking at? Was I looking at like 400 millimeters? Also, this is my favorite thing. This is like the number one tab I always open.
They know what you want.
Yeah. Maybe I was looking at 350. That still might not be. Because by the time you get down to it, 350 is like a 350 ball screw is like a 200 travel. You know, like you gotta leave some buffer. Maybe not quite that dramatic, but you know, something to that degree. 300. Yeah, I was thinking I was looking at 300 in the z-axis too. You know what I also might do to that optical breadboard I have right now? Is
What?
just turn it into a sketching and a drawing machine.
I think would be the easiest thing to do. Yeah.
That's merchandise right there, baby. Also,
You could maybe do some like glass scoring stuff. Actually, no, that's kind of hard to do.
it is. But actually, the other thing with that project, if I wanted to make a drawing machine, is it would be good because I don't work with gantries a lot, and actually understanding gantries and using belts would be a tool in my a cap, you know, a feather in the cap that I haven't ever played around with.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you could probably do a decent amount of just like letter writing stuff
Yeah, I mean,
if you wanted to. I don't know.
Nobody.
How often do you want to like draw something out though? I also feel like it probably wouldn't be the best like line in marking, but
Once I
not
figure-
bad practice regardless.
Yeah. Once I figure out how to make drawings from like a Google image, I'm gonna want to do it all the time.
I mean, it's just the process of converting into SVGs or like DXF or whatever the file type is.
Exactly. I don't even know what that would be.
I remember we had to convert sketches and SolidWorks to those to make laser cut parts and waterjet parts.
That makes sense. I did like the tiny G. I do have to work on the Y, but I know how to do Y better now, which is good. The tiny G worked well. Let's see, what else do I remember of that project? Oh, I chose bad linear rails. I actually was watching.
What did you like about those?
So, I stumbled across a video after I bought them. I think we bought them like October, November time frame, right?
Yeah.
And in December, when I was like sitting down and doing like real research on this, I came across a video on those exact linear rails about a force analysis, and
Hmm.
how because it's a rail and the type of cheap coupling that's on them, it doesn't provide a good force in all directions, and that a little bit of a misaskew, like a little askew, all of a sudden you actually end up in pretty big issues because of it being a rod and not like a normal rail. So going to real linear rails like a THK might be a good idea.
THK.
THK. THK is a really expensive linear motion guys. They do the ball screws, linear rails, all that good stuff. Um, I might just straight up be able to buy things off the shelf from them. I think that's the other part, and I think you do this well. Buying off the shelf stuff.
Yeah, if you can balance like time is a resource. So even if you can do it yourself, if you spend a lot of time doing it, like even from just that analysis, that's still like a lot of the times going to put you on the side of buying something pre-made. But also like there's just like yours isn't going to work the first time. You're going to need to go back and do a few spirals and figure a few bugs, and they've already done that.
Yeah.
Like you can also like yeah, it's just it'll save you a lot of time. I'm huge on where you can buy something that already exists if you don't need to make a new thing.
Yeah, I tend to struggle with that. That's actually not one of my strong suits. Um, I try to think like, oh, I can do it myself, all this, and then I go, man, I really could have been about 3 days ahead afterwards. So no, I do think that's a really good point. But yeah, THK is a really good one, and there's some websites, Automation Overstock, that you could get some of these cheaper. So these
Oh.
things can run for a very long time, but factories and other places don't use them for that long. They'll try to get them out there quick, and so to sometimes to prevent wear and tear and damage, this is where they'll end up. And so this is a pretty cool site. I forget how I stumbled across it, but yeah, like NSK precision ball, like that's a really expensive thing. You don't just find them laying around.
Ball screws.
Yeah,
Nice.
balls. Yeah, so like, oh yeah, Highwind, and these guys are also really big, heavy duty. Probably went too big. Tiny G worked really well for the motion control. I forget if it can do full axes, but I don't really care because that's not on my checkpoint list.
More about that later.
Yeah, that's a dumb one.
Gotta get to that problem first.
Yeah, trying to think what other good takeaways I had from it. Huh, that's weird. I don't know. What do you remember from when I was playing around, touring around with this project?
Um, how the limit switches come into contact with the rails is a huge factor.
Yeah, I
I remember
remember.
that was always kind of like never really seemed to be the top of our minds, but it was pretty essential for having it operate correctly.
You actually bring up a really good point, and I ran into this in my previous project, the sanitization device, where one
Hmm.
of the engineers on it was not thinking about the accessories that often, and the accessories took a backseat, sometimes in the design, and all of a sudden he got to the end, and you're like, oh, we have to add limit switch, we have to add button, we have to, and you're like, ooh, I forgot about these, and now some of the things
That's
that
when you get what I like to call a kludge.
oh man, yes, yeah, we run into kludges real easy. Um, when you're starting to post-process parts that you bought that should be post-processed, kludge mania happens. Um, So, yeah, Clutch, build up around switches and the like. Also, one thing that I found that I'm super excited about for this build. This is going to help this build a lot. Welcome to Musimi. It's the best website on earth.
It seems like a slightly different McMaster.
Exactly, it is. It has some different stuff. It is cool. I'll just choose this one for random. Milled surface. These are milled flat. So
They're milled.
I have like the stuff I have for them is pretty good 80-20. Pretty good.
Isn't that going to be so expensive?
It is, but I think it's worth it. For a couple reasons. It's not too much more expensive, like in the whole grand scheme of things, but it also, I think, allows you not to have to worry about your tolerance buildup, you know, where all of a sudden, you know, I have to shim stock this area a lot more. I have to, you know, do all that stuff. I think it helps in the long run. But that's just a thought for right now. But I've run across that I had not thought of previously.
Still pretty brutal on price, though, I'd imagine. How much more expensive is it? I mean,
Uh,
not that that's the best use of our time.
I don't know. I got nothing. It's good to show the audience. So for something like 100, you know, you're looking at $24 when comparatively to get 80-40. Get 80-40, that's not that way. Huh? They sell non-milled. I swear. This isn't weird. Oh, I have to remember to select 5 series, I think. Also, they have some cool angle cuts that McMaster doesn't have.
Oh, like angled 80-20? That's pretty good.
Yeah. Even curved, which I thought was really cool. There it is. So, oh, wow. So yeah, it's a significant actual step up. I didn't realize that. 2485. 2485 did 9.73. Yeah, it's about 2.5x. Small details. That's interesting.
2.5.
Hmm?
2.5. I can see it being worth it for the tolerance, like improvements sometimes, but not most of the time. I don't think.
Not all pieces, because anything that's vertical, you don't need it. But if it's going to be touching the optical breadboard, for example, that's where I think it's useful. Especially because, like with this middle row, you can connect a linear rail down that. Like that, I think, is the real key. You know, and now you on a flat surface, on a flat this, flat that, and I think that's where you build up that. What's some other takeaways?
Yeah, the smoothness and precision of the optical breadboard doesn't do much good if you stack something that's got like a crazy variation on it right next to it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point about that. Research. What are types of CNC machines? Technically, this is a CNC milling machine. Which, fine.
Fair enough.
But there's some different, like, yeah, there's vertical versus horizontal. Interesting. I've seen some other horizontal milling machines, but they're a bit weird. Although,
Hmm. Isn't that just a lathe?
yeah, you can use it, I think, more efficiently as a lathe.
That's just a reverse lathe. Hold up.
Wait, we played ourselves.
That's a lathe with extra steps. No, I get what you mean though. That's not a lathe.
Yeah, there's this type, a C frame. There's different frame
Hmm.
types. That's what I was thinking about.
Frame types.
Yeah. Same C-type structure. This is maybe the one I should move to. I was looking originally, I forget what it was called, um, but the nice thing about a C-frame here is that your spindle isn't moving. It's
Hmm.
stationary. Other
Everything's
designs,
moving around it.
yeah. Other designs either have it, you're moving your Y gantry back and forth, and your X gantry and your Z gantry all move.
Does that make it more limiting? It feels like it's a bit harder to make like a large area with that kind of a design.
Yes,
Like your C needs to go a bit too big, too arched.
exactly. This is a size limiting design, which might be working in my favor given my past track history of biting off too much. Um, that's another thing I tend to notice is I don't do a good job of. Is I bite off a lot, but this might help limit me. It also, makes it pretty nice. Like you get to work around other elements of it. I think that might be good. Let me copy that. Copy this image into the research section. The frame. Do. Yeah, I have that already. I already have the spindle, which I was pretty happy with. I need to get it operational, but it was pretty good. What are you thinking about for the hydroponics? Actually, let's talk about the hydroponics as I poke around for stuff.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, so I'm talking with Adam, our mutual friends. He's big into hydroponics, wants to kind of make some like pretty standardized, easy to repeat, kind of almost like a kit. You just got like a list of things to go buy, a few custom made parts we send to you, and you can kind of make your own little hydroponics tower.
yeah.
And we're looking at mainly kind of vertical designs. The one that he just made one of was a vertical PVC pipe kind of stood up in the middle of a big bucket
Mhm.
and pump water up the tube, let it fall back down around the sides of the tube, kind of like on the inside, and then make cuts on the side, warp it with a heat gun,
Mhm.
and open it up so you can put a pot in there, and then put little pots with roots hanging into the center column, and the roots get nutrients in the water.
Yeah.
And it's good because it's pretty small.
Mhm.
A lot of the parts are pretty standard. But the other design we're thinking of is kind of like a 3D printed tower to kind of screw to itself.
Mhm.
That could work. You can kind of make a lot of the parts, like some of the channels internal to it, but 3D printed parts are kind of hard to get waterproof. You do got to like coat them in something or make the walls pretty thick
Yeah.
or like melt and reflow the layers or something. I find it gets pretty messy.
Yeah. Here's the other variation on the CNC machine, where it's all gantries move, and the piece stays put. Um,
See.
so, I'm just pulling these into the research doc to shut them down. You're talking about hydroponics and stuff. When we go larger scale, what do you think? Home growing and stuff like that, food wise, and that type of processing is really societal
Oh, like,
impact wise.
oh, that? I don't know. I mean, that could be a conversation that we save for when Adam comes on,
Okay,
and when we have more viewers than me watching our stream.
that makes sense. No.
I might have to get going kind of soon. I'm trying to reset my sleep schedule.
That makes sense. I might stay on and do some of the nitty gritty politics stuff of random things. Is there anything you don't
Yeah.
want me to touch that you want to get on?
And besides like topics that I've been like kind of the only person who can really talk about, nothing I can think of.
Okay. I might.
Save Cascade Systems collapse theory for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely start that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Let's get
Alright,
back
I'm
on.
gonna hop off.
Alrighty. Have a good night.
You as well. Peace.
Peace. Alrighty, folks. Let me. Yes. I'm gonna keep going on this, but we might listen to some. Other politics stuff. As we get going. I have not seen this duplex milling machine. Huh. I will have to take a peek at what the hell that is. Bed milling type, this is the type of thing I was looking for. Bed milling versus column versus vertical. That's a perfect article to save. Let's see. What did I have on the docket? The Supreme Court today handed down another ruling. That might be something I'll get into once I get back from the bathroom. I'll be right back myself. Nobody go anywhere. Not that there's anyone. My foot space is not open. Welcome back. Alrighty. So, I guess I kind of talked about it. Let's see. We're going to maybe look at some state politics real quick. Arizona gubernatorial debate. I saw an absolute bonkers segment from this earlier today, like a headline. I didn't watch it. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Well, either way, what I'll do is I'll bring this under stream to talk about it. So, what? There we go. Yeah, this might be the headline I saw on Yahoo. Some state politics, man. Wacky. Arizona's gubernatorial race. These are the little factories in where bigger federal policy gets drawn. These are, I don't want to say the minor leagues to the MLB, but the other international professional leagues. to the MLB. This is, that's what they are, in many ways, to the federal. They think the election was stolen. No shit. The Kool-Aid-dranked Republicans. In fact, I'm pretty sure after the audit they found more votes. The election. Let's see if there's any. Let's see if I go for Arizona highlights. Ah, perfect.
One of the things I tell on young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. So a man who's capable of aggression, but
Jordan Peterson is an interesting character. Do not like him. I think he promotes a lot of hierarchy that's stupid. I think he makes a lot of fallacious appeals to nature in dumb ways. Yeah, I'll see what he gets on about. He's already talked about being a monster and stuff. He has some masculinity thoughts that I think are stupid. These are the same people that would melt if I said the words toxic masculinity. By melting down in a toxic masculinity pool.
has it under control is a way more useful man than one who cannot do that. And so you're willing to go get a job, but you're terrified of an interview. It's like, there's a dragon for you. Because you want to fight the dragons that guard the gates of the treasure that you wish to attain.
Are you just talking about overcoming challenges? It doesn't make you a monster.
Productivity requires aim, orientation, responsibility, discipline, that willingness to work, that willingness to make sacrifices, which is the hallmark of maturity in the service of a higher goal. It orients you solidly in the world if you do that, and it gives you a dragon to fight. What do you want to grow up? You want to be a literary?
The way he's like kind of fluffing it up, like, no, this is just like coming of age. This is just an element. It's a flowery story to it to draw people in.
You want to be inarticulate? You're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to lead. You're going to have to convince. You're going to have to think. To say to a 18-year-old, you're okay the way you are, that just deflates them. When you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, well, your body's going to transform, but it's not going to do that if you just sit around. You have to face your being with the necessity of transformation, and then all sorts of new things that you had no idea you were capable of will make themselves manifest. Those are the dragons, the ones that stand in the path that leads to the light.
Yeah, okay, so this is one of the elements of him that's coming back in pretty crisp, clear ways. The flowery language, it really drawn at point. He said the same thing 4 times already in this one commercial. This is not, he's not said something new here. He does this a lot in one of his books. It's one of the 12 Rules to Life books. There's like an entire sentence where it comes down to the idea of you have to be responsible. 3 words, we're done. So you see some of that here with his flowery language to draw out, and very simple point.
And you have to say to yourself, I will do good nonetheless. Everyone great makes that decision. Make that decision, because maybe you're great.
I think the flowery language. Okay, Arizona.
And there's other people here on this stage who on Board of Regents had an opportunity to vote our children out of those masks.
Wait a second, Ted, that is a lie. Ted, that is a lie.
Arizona Board of Regents
Fake
record.
Lake.
Because she sat the vote out, and she's a coward, and we need somebody who's strong.
All right, you're up.
Well, that is an absolute lie. Unlike Carrie Lake and Nancy
Wait a minute,
Pelosi,
you didn't
I
vote.
will
Gotta
not.
let her finish,
She
Carrie.
didn't. I will
Gotta let
not
her
vote
finish.
on anything that I don't read.
She's voted pro-abortion.
That is not
She has
true.
voted. She's
That is
against the Second
absolutely
Amendment.
a
This
lie.
is right there in.
Those are issues we're going to get to. Those. I promise you.
But
are.
I'm not going to be called fake if I'm telling the truth here.
All right.
Well,
so
truth
you've
not
had a
telling
chance
the
to-
truth.
you've had a
When
chance
she did not vote our
Fake
children
lake.
out of
I
masks.
am 100% pro-life.
Let's
I
hold
always
on
have
with
been,
the
and I
fake
always
lake.
will be.
Hold on with the fake lake, and hold on.
You
with
know
the
what? We
response to
do.
the
We
fake lake.
do need. She's right. We do need somebody who's a grown up, and somebody who calls names is not a grown up.
All right.
The
You
other
agree
thing
with-
is though.
hold on,
Listen.
Karen. Do you agree that the current governor didn't have the
The current governor is a guy called Greg Ducey. No, Greg Ducey. I think it's Steve Ducey. Yeah.
backbone to do what was best for Arizona?
That's right. It's all
Absolutely.
about money.
Hold on.
He had the back-
No, no, no.
He had the
Hold on.
backbone to do what was
Hold
good
on.
for the big businesses.
Hold on. Karen, do
Period.
you believe he
I'll
did
tell
not
you,
have the backbone?
We're all sitting here with the benefit of being a Monday morning quarterback. What I'm saying is Arizona's economy has come roaring back from the pandemic. So
Actually,
it's
No, no, it hasn't. You know what? You know what? When you're a billionaire, when you're a billionaire living in a mansion, everything.
Yes, raise your hand. This is how you're getting in this debate. So far, for minute 36, it's just been gibberish. But hopefully they get to some of the false election claims. But you saw one of her opening attacks. I think this is GOP. One of the things that you hear a lot is about being weak, and this is kind of a dual edge. But a lot of people, you heard it in the Trump January 6th when he attacked Pence. It was you're weak. It's not that you're wrong or you're right. It's that you're weak or you're strong as an element.
Looks bright and shiny and good.
And it's nice that
People
you're my
have
neighbor,
lost.
Carrie.
I'm not somebody who just throws away money like my opponent, who's throwing more money
Okay,
into this
wait a
race
second.
for a
You know,
vanity
okay,
project.
let's answer it.
hold on.
Okay, I want to get
This
to
is
it.
a vanity
I'm
project.
ready to fight. I'm
I
ready to
started
fight.
my career
Just her
at
vanity project.
25 cents an hour. That's when I got
Poor women off to this side, never gonna get a word in.
out on the ladder.
All right.
No offense, but everybody on this stage is an elitist. What we need is a middle-class candidate for governor who has a street view of what's going on, not an elite view from an ivory tower. I'm sorry, but you all live in ivory towers. I don't.
We are going to make Arizona the small business capital of this country, and that means we have to
is
have
it
a
not a
low
small
tax.
business capital now?
Because she's
No.
okay with small business.
I would be curious what his platform is. No doubt, if you would actually grind into it, get nitty gritty, it's the same crap.
This is being shut down, as she just said.
I am a small business owner.
She's okay with.
I am a
Actually,
small
your
business
husband's a
owner.
billionaire. Ed Robson owns Robson Resort Communities.
That's right.
That is not a small business.
Okay,
I-
but first
I
of
have
all,
a
we're
small
talking.
That's a good call out.
I have-
Okay,
She's okay
hold
with
on.
small
about
business
me?
being shut down.
Everyone, hold on for
I
a
am
second.
not.
We encourage interjection
And I have never
interruption,
said
but
that.
we've got to have some semblance of order.
Roll back
Please.
the tape. She just said that.
Please.
I am a small business
I asked
owner,
you a question,
and-
but I
That's
didn't
not
get a
true.
response from you. Would you?
What do you mean that's
Scott,
not
please.
true?
You're not
Listen,
you're worth
Scott,
millions of dollars. That's not a
Scott,
small
I
business.
have
It
a
doesn't
small.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Like Trump said, do we want people in office that have not made money, or do we want people that are broke? Are they going to make money for you?
Yep. Here's another great talking point out of GOP, and by great I mean I want to bash my head against a wall. There have been certain people from my family friend group, extended, from my parents who went into politics eventually. They come, from the business world and stuff, and they had that same mindset. When they got to government, they figured out, man, government is not business. And this is a talking point out of the GOP that doesn't really hold water. Like, we are not running government like a business. That is not the goal.
I'd actually like to ask everybody on this stage if they would agree we had a corrupt, stolen election. Raise your hand. Did we have?
Okay, yep.
This is
I
a
would
question.
like to.
Did
I'm
we
not
have-
going to
I've
play
got questions.
your stunt.
Well, let me
Because
finish
on election
answering
night,
then.
Carrie
Hold on.
Lake-
Answering.
Carrie
Okay,
Lake called
instead of
me on
everyone
the
raising
Joe
You
their
want to
Biden.
know why?
If everyone raising their hands, I want to know why you think that the election was either rigged, stolen, or whatever the phrase might be.
It was
when
corrupt and stolen.
Corrupt and
yes.
stolen, whatever.
I've looked at the evidence. We did a forensic
Why have
audit.
you looked at the evidence and the courts
Turn it
looked
over
at
to the authorities.
Haven't had a chance to
courts
look at the
haven't looked
evidence
at the evidence.
because they haven't found
We have
sustainable
evidence.
and substantive
And turn it in. You
evidence.
should turn
we
it in.
have evidence. I know you
You
don't
should
believe that
turn
our
it in.
election was stolen, Karen.
I believe our
And there's a
election was
reason-
absolutely
Her name's Karen.
There's a
not fair.
reason that the
And
people who
I'll
want
tell
to
you why.
Hold on, please. Unfair is different than rigged, stolen, and illegitimate.
I am not going to be in the cul-de-sac that the left wants us to be. They want us to be on the
So you're not
2020
willing to
battle.
say that the
Biden-
election wasn't rigged?
I'm willing
Listen,
to
there's
tell you.
election fraud
It's
on many
very
layers.
obvious. Let me just say something.
Right.
It's very obvious that Karen is controlled by.
If you have been watching the January 6th hearings, if you haven't, you should be. Every element of that is debunked. They knew they were pushing bullshit from the get-go. They were just going to push it. Roger Stone, one of Trump's early advisors, registered Stop the Steal domain back in 2016. They were just going to try it,
by her consultants, high-paid McCain consultants. This election is about, are we going to go forward?
I am not
we the
controlled by
people in
anybody.
control of our destiny.
Well, that's okay. God, they talk over me and I'm Italian. That shouldn't happen.
We had major election fraud. 200,000 minimum ballots were trafficked by mules. This is why people...
Carrie, you're part...
Yep, this is the 2,000 mules thing from Dinesh D'Souza. Completely debunked. It was GPS, data by drop boxes, which like some delivery company would have like triggered it like 75 times in a day or something. Absolutely stupid, absolutely nuts.
Part of the election fraud going on in the Republican primary as we speak right now. I mean, you're being propped up and supported by Kelly Ward and the AZ GOP, and during a primary, a GOP chair is not supposed to get behind one candidate,
I don't
but
think
she's
she
got
has.
behind you
No,
solely.
she hasn't.
Blake Masters,
she has.
Oh, yes,
Kelly
she has.
Cooper.
She has.
I have not
She's
had
picked
one.
her
Pam
America
Purdy.
First award-winning team, Abe Hamadeh.
I am
and
America
whether they're
First.
good,
You're
and whether
right.
they're
You're
good
right.
candidates or not, you cannot legally, as an AZ GOP chair, get behind your favorite candidates for office. Even Ronna McDaniel said that. You can't do that. It's not legal.
I think most people want election integrity and election honesty, and they
What
want
does
to
it
make sure.
mean? What does it mean?
Like I said,
Nothing
we're
has
not
been
having
done.
election integrity
What
in
do
the
you
middle of
keep
this
talking
AZ
about it? But
GOP
you
primary
haven't.
as it goes.
Go
So.
I thought this election was stolen, but then says that. They're confused.
Forward with
What
the
integrity?
issues that we
I
have
feel
in our
like I'm on an
state.
SNL skit here. Are
You
we
know
going to
what?
take control of the debate?
We
now,
are
or do you want me
taking...
to do it?
No, Carrie, I don't want
I'm
you to try
happy
to
to do
take
it.
I know you would be happy to do it.
Listen, I haven't been on a stage with this many women since I've been to a baby shower. For example,
Okay.
you know, the whole drag queen debacle with her and her drag queen friends and whatnot. She's
I'm
not
hoping
being
you're gonna let
honest
me
about
respond
it.
to this.
She's not being honest about it, and now she's suing the drag queen. I mean, the drag queen's got evidence. She
Are you
went
not...
out in drag
Okay,
bars.
Scott,
I mean,
Scott,
she
you
brought
opened up,
drag
you opened
queens.
up a can of words. I gave you 30 seconds.
she
and you
brought
did
drag
this.
queens in
All
front
right,
of the
Carrie, how do you respond
First
to
of
this
all,
whole...
From the surface, I'll say this: the drag queen crap is stupid. They're trying to portray LGBT people who aren't, heteronormative as purely sexual beings for a very devious reason.
You know what? I've never backed away from anything I've done in my life.
Be honest about it. That's all we're asking.
I think I'd like to answer.
Let her
if you
answer,
don't
please,
mind.
Scott.
There's a reason we don't always invite Scott because he's polling at 0%.
No, 1%.
And this is what happens
But the polls
when you...
lie.
That's a shame.
All right, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much what I would expect out of that. Let's see if they have any other funny clips. No, I'm not watching an hour debate of that crap. Speaking of other Texas Republican platform 2022, let's talk about something absolutely bonanza. I don't know when this was released, but probably about a week ago. The Texas Republican Party, which is the largest Republican Party, released their 2022 platform. These are good things to go through in general. This is where policy kind of gets made, in many ways. So let's see what they highlight: constitutional issues, state sovereignty, probably to secede, business and commerce, that's going to be crazy. Oh, and we accidentally went there. Let's see what we have. Already something about Texas oil or not. Russian oil? Yes. We oppose all efforts to classify carbon as a... Yes, carbon dioxide as a pollutant. Yeah, we oppose that. Okay. As engineers and people who come to the stream who are, do realize that climate change is a very real thing, and this is a huge threat. The fact that they don't want carbon dioxide labeled as a pollutant, crazy. Free market solutions whenever possible. Obviously, this is a anarcho-capitalist talking point. It's kind of really, we oppose environmentalism, go to the business, private use, predatory, abusive. Yeah. We oppose the abuse of the Endangered Species Act to confiscate and limit the use of personal property. Yikes. Defund climate justice initiatives. Good God. Abolish the EPA. Yep. We don't want that. Repeal the Species Data Act because, we don't need our animals. Holy crap. We oppose the America the Beautiful initiative. Let's see what this is. We can protect and conserve 30% of land and waters by 2030. Oh, so it's a conservation effort, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. We assert that the state Texas shall enjoy jurisdiction of its offshore waters up until the international border. I don't know if that's actually how that works. I don't know who owns that territory. We support the decision of this Texas in preserving individual right to groundwater and the right to recapture it. I don't know if I disagree with that. It is weird. There are some laws about like storing rainwater. Although if you were to do it on certain scales, you definitely run into problems. We support tying surface rights. We support market solutions. Obviously, the Republican Party, you always have and always will, no matter the detriment to society. Immediate removal of government barriers and direct subsidies to the production, transportation, refining, and distribution of energy. Huh. Let's, subsidies for oil, natural gas, federal government. 5.9 trillion in 2020. Now, obviously, I'm hoping we move away from this, and I think this element is mostly meant to make sure that green energy gets lax as subsidies, but we can't shut off this valve without destroying our nation. Like, you know, we can't just turn the knob, even on the subsidy side. I know it sucks, but they're just actively arguing for a horrendous transition. This might be the only segment I go over tonight. I don't know, that one's there. Texas should take advantage of its grid independence. Yes, the same one that almost left it without electricity for several months. And they fail to weatherproof every time. Encouraging providers, next generation nuclear plants. Yeah, I'm good with nuclear. I think it's pretty good. Free of red tape. Encouraging free of red tape that would otherwise incur. They're talking about regulation. Red tape is their dog whistle for that. No, they're not dog whistle. Euphemism. That's kind of scary. Because yes, all nuclear plants need to have heavy regulation. Just sorry. Keep the federal government from interfering with Texas should ensure that all supply chains, components, fuel remain in state and off federal claimed land. Yeah, that'll be an element of what they suggest. I don't know, crazy. That whole part, this entire thing is nuts. The idea of like red tape around nuclear plants, like what? Yeah, I think we're gonna get into it later. One thing I might stream later on. How do I get it on my screen? Is a game called Manic Miners, and I'm very excited to maybe introduce that to you guys later. So, with that, I think I'm signing off. This has been Panda, and our first stream on politics and calipers, and I'm hoping we'll grow an audience sooner or later. Have a good night, y'all.